Okay, it's been a while since I've made one of these, and I have made this literally after just getting back from watching it. So it is time to make my thoughts on Guardians of the Galaxy, and I know a lot of people are going to be pointing out that it's been out for a while. So obviously the stuff that I'm going to say might be a lot like how some people else say, and maybe it is, maybe it won't. But uh, yeah, I basically came back from watching Guardians of the Galaxy, and I felt it was a pretty decent movie. I mean, it's not like up there on my favorite, but it's definitely something that's like I could probably watch it again. I could probably watch it like 2 or 3 times. And let me just move my microphone. Sorry for the shaking there. So I'm just gonna say right now that this will contain spoilers. Like I will be saying some parts of the plot here to basically explain like things that I liked and things that I didn't like about it. So you have been warned that it has spoilers, so you can just basically use this first 1 minute to say, yeah, it's a pretty decent film. I'd watch it a couple of times. You know, it's not like amazing, but it's still good. So the film starts out with the main character's mother, Peter, uh, dying, and this is what I don't get about films is that they try and make a death happen like in films. Like I don't get why these people do this. I mean, people say that this is to create emotion and to make you feel like sorry for this person, but if it's at the very beginning of the movie and it's not a real life person, like if it is not based on a true like event, when you do something like that, it's I don't feel it. It's like if this was like in a flashback for the main character, like he had a flashback to his his mother. Like if it just started with him as an adult, and then it flashbacked right at the climax, which it kind of did, but kind of didn't, and then you feel a bit sorry for him because it's like, oh, this is what happened to this person, but they didn't, which kind of like softened the impact a bit. It wasn't like I didn't feel sorry for him as a kid because his mother died, and maybe that's just because I'm desensitized to death at this point. After through life, everybody dies. I've had relatives die. People who made this film had relatives die. It's the norm. So it's like maybe I'm just a heartless monster that didn't feel it. But so after that, he's on this planet that is abandoned for whatever reason. They don't explain like why it's abandoned. I mean, they kind of. I think they do. I think like here's the problem with the film. Okay, now I'm very well aware that this is based off, I believe, a comic series by Marvel. It's a Marvel Studios thing, so I can only assume that it is based off a comic book series called Guardians of the Galaxy, and they are not kind to those that have never seen Guardians of the Galaxy. Like they show things and explain things and have all these different like races and such, but they never explain it. They never like the main villain is part of some race, and they talk about a peace treaty and thousands of years of war. It's like, well, wait. What's this about thousands of years of war? What's this about a peace treaty between like these Nova people who just basically look human and these? I don't know. It's like I'm just sitting here and asking myself, what are these, like, what do they mean by this? And obviously, like, that's the whole show don't tell. Too much exposition will ruin an experience. But at the same time, if you're going to make a film based on a comic or anything, like a game or anything, you need to give the amount of information so that a person coming in who has not seen these comic books or played these games, like, if they don't know that, you have to ease them in. You have to like put like a light framework, and Guardians of the Galaxy lack that, and unfortunately that seems to be the case. Like the only Marvel or whatever DC I think it's DC. Yeah, I think DC are the ones that do like the more like ground to earth, like your Batman and such. Or maybe it's Marvel. I don't know. Whoever's the one that does Batman, they seem to like be a bit better at exposition. Like I watched The Dark Knight. I watched Tim Burton's Batman and such, and I could relate. I could get into that. I could be like, okay, I've never seen a Batman comic in my life, but I get this world. I get it. They explain it. They show it. Guardians of the Galaxy, I mean, okay, maybe it's because of the fact that Batman is just focusing about one guy in one city, and Guardians of the Galaxy is a bunch of people in a galaxy. But at the same time, it's just... I don't know. I just... Like, that's definitely my major gripe with this film, is the fact that it doesn't explain. And obviously, there's like... As I said, again, exposition can kill a film, show, don't tell. But at the same time, you still need... If you can't show, then you do need to tell. And it's not like, don't lay out, like, everything from, like, issue 1 of Guardians of the Galaxy to where it ties in with the film and such. But, like, it gives a little bit more information. Just, like, you know... They give us slight information about all the side races, like, the main... heroine, I don't even remember her name, but it's like, oh, she is this, she was turned into this, and it's just like, okay, all I see is a green-skinned woman here. Why don't you tell me, it's like, turn into a weapon. Obviously, being this race who are skilled at combat, yada yada, she adapted incredibly, yada yada. Like, it does that kind of stuff. I mean, it's like, they explained the raccoon in much more detail, much faster. It's just like, he calls himself Rocket. He is part of an illegal experiment of cybernetics, genetics on a lower life form. It's just like, there you go. You've just explained an entire, like, subspecies in this universe, just like, oh, okay, the reason this raccoon is able to walk and talk and think like a human is because he's a result of experimentation. Gotcha! Right, thank you. What about these other guys? What about the green skin girl? And nothing. They barely explain anything, and it's just like... maybe it's just because I never read the comics, but if that's the case, then that's a bit of a fall down on their part, because you would expect them to at least... It's like the Pokemon movie. Everyone knows that the Pokemon movie explains jack shit. It's got nothing. It doesn't say anything involving, like, Pokemon. It's just like, oh yes, we are searching for this Pokemon called Mew. It doesn't tell you anything. I mean, the Nostalgia Critic pointed it out. It's just like, the film does not try to explain it, and the same thing is this. I mean, it's like, it tries a little bit, but not enough. It's just like, oh, what about this? Oh, one sentence explanation. Like, they went on. It's like, oh, this is the goddamn like, this is an Infinity Stone. There are 5 of them, and when you collect them all, you turn into Supersonic, and only some things can. Yeah. I don't know how to word it, but it's like, yeah, that's the main problem. But obviously, that's me going into detail about the problem. What about the stuff I really enjoyed? I found it funny how I mentioned that there was going to be, like, spoilers, but there isn't. I'm actually surprised for a movie called Guardians of the Galaxy that they spend more time indoors. I mean, like, 80% of the movie, they're either indoors or on planet. They're not, like, in space. I think actually, yeah, there's only like 2 occasions when they're in space in the entire film, and I think either one of the I guess you could technically say, oh, when they're in prison, that was them in space. I don't count that because they're still in the prison. It's just the prison is located in space, but they're still indoors, so it counts. Where else do I go with this? I like the comedy. Like, the comedy is kind of like my kind of shtick. I'm like into the... I mean, like, there actually wasn't a lot of slapstick, so that was one thing that I didn't really like. I wasn't like, slapstick, but it's like, it had some witty humor. Like, it was mostly insulting each other, which made it work. And like the misunderstandings of the metaphors were just stupid. Like there's one where the main character like tries to convince another character not to kill the heroine, the green skin girl. I really don't remember her name. Like I don't. I only remember the main character. No, I only know the main character, the raccoon, and the goddamn tree. And the goddamn tree is just because the only thing he ever says is "I am Groot." Everyone knows that. I am so glad that I finally figured out why everyone is going fucking nuts over the "I am Groot." And I thought it was because of some really dumb reason. And it is. That's all he ever says. Just, "I am Groot." That's all he says. And it's just like, well, that is, I should have expected that, but I didn't, and I am incredibly disappointed. I am Groot, because he only says that. But yeah, like, I don't even know, like, the big muscle-bound, like, tattooed guy or the green skin girl. I don't remember their names, but, like, there's one where the tattooed guy is trying to kill the green guy, and the main character's just like, no. If you let her live, the main villain will come for you, and you can do, and does like the the cutting motion onto your chin. Obviously, I don't have a webcam on or anything, so you can't see. But I'm making the little motion like running my finger across my throat, and basically the tattoo guy just turns to him and says, "Why would I want to put my finger on his throat?" And it's just like, that is so bad. Puns of misunderstanding are not my thing. Okay, mine is more like insulting humor and slapstick. Like, that's my kind of stick, and unfortunately there wasn't a whole lot of that. So yeah, that the humor, like, I mean, the humor got a smile out of me every now and then. Like, there were a couple of funny bits, like just where Groot, when they're talking about, oh, we gotta break out of this, we need to get this one thing that's all the way up here, and we should get it last. And in the distance, you just see Groot walking towards it, lifting up and ripping the thing out, just calmly. And another one where he like smashes the ever-loving crap out of a ton of guards and just turns to the other guys and just smiles. Like that kind of stuff. Like Groot to me was like Groot and Rocket were the funny moments for me. Like just the way they interacted with the characters or interacted with their environment, especially Groot. I mean, it's just like you see him go like crazy and then he just turns around and smiles. It's just like with those two, it's just funny. What else? I didn't actually like the villain. And that's mainly because, like, the villain is like this main guy, but then they show another guy, and he's on screen for, like, a minute, 2 minutes. And I'm just sitting here just like, so he's a mastermind. What? What was it? What's so important about him anymore? He looks like a mixture of Magneto and Galactus. Or he looks like an elderly Galactus. It's like, what's his story? Why is he like this mastermind? How is he surviving in the vacuum of space? There's a thing. Again, this goes back to my whole issue with the movie of how it doesn't explain anything outside of the main story. And of course, to me, it's like they show it's like, oh, we got this mining colony in the head of an ancient being. Go, tell me more about that, please. Tell me more about that fucking ancient being. How the fuck did it lose its head? Like, how? And then, of course, they go into the mention like all these infinity stones and such, and it's just like, it's a lot of exposition about it. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not bad exposition, it's important, because we're obviously talking about the Deus Ex Machina of this universe. We're talking about like the the Infinity Stones to Guardians of the Galaxy is what the Chaos Emeralds are to Sonic the Hedgehog, or what the Davy Jones' heart is to Davy Jones. No, that's a really bad one. The Chaos Emeralds to Sonic. Yeah, and it's just like, okay, yeah, sure, fine. Great exposition, but you could have just said the simple line that one of such holders of the Infinity Earth we're in right now. And it's just like, nowhere was a holder of an Infinity Stone. And it's just like, okay. I don't. I'm very confused. Very confused. Yeah, that's my problem. It doesn't explain. There actually isn't. One thing that amazes me is like mine is like one time, which is like shut down instantly. There's no actual really mixture of love interest between the green skinned chick and the Peter guy, and it's just like I know people are gonna think it's weird, but by God, everyone's okay with Captain Kirk kissing some green haired woman or green skinned woman in Star Trek, so I assume that those Star Trekkies would be right on board with that kind of stuff. But no, they actually the guy doesn't necessarily like fully get the girl. Like, it's implied that they've got a relationship going on, but they don't necessarily, like, seem to be together. They just seem like partners. They just seem like they're working together, and it's just like, you know what? That's a nice change of pace. Like, every single film I've seen recently, the guy's always gone the girl. And just to see, like he sort of gets the girl, but it's more like, hey, they're just partners. They're not, like, loving happily ever after kind of deal. I mean, obviously that's because they blatantly set themselves up for a sequel. Like the cybernetic girl, like, oh, there is actually one funny moment that there is like only one bit of slapstick. I'm gonna spoil it right now. It's during the climax, which by the way, the climax was fucking awesome. I'll like gush on that once I finish this one. Where they're just like talking about like, oh, like the tattoo guy's like, you are my friend, and you are my friend, and he, like, gets interrupted by this other main villain, this cybernetic girl, coming in. She starts going on a long-winded speech. It's as if, like, it's like all those stupid villains that just keep talking when there's no need to. She's, like, talking about a speech, and the tattoo guy just shoots her in the face with a rocket launcher. Like, that was slapstick comedy, and that actually got a chuckle from me. That was really funny. Because I had slapstick, and of course he just says, nobody talks that way to my friends. Even though, of course, he just called her a green-skinned whore. But, you know, that kind of stuff. And now I'm going to gush about the climax, because, by God, I love the climax. Like, with me, when it comes to, like, battles, like, real or otherwise, I am mostly fascinated to ones that do not have the limits of, like, ground. So basically, like, naval battles, obviously, they get a few points, but they're still limited by the sea. But, like, air and space battles, it's like, that's, like, no holds barred. The only limits are your own ship. And it's just, like, to have I think the climax was, like, 10 minutes long, or 15 minutes or so, in the air, with, like, hundreds of ships taking part. It's just like, I was excited. I really, like, I fucking love the climax because, like, okay, you've got like this massive warship coming in to destroy this planet, and what they're trying to basically like this ragtag bunch of like thieves basically go toe-to-toe against this giant warship that's spewing out hundreds of little ships. And then, like, when it looks like all hope's lost, like, the planet's defense, who are just like, should we help them or shouldn't we? Just, like, appear and start, like, having this massively epic fight. Like, it's basically like an even terms fight, outside of the obvious fact that, you know, the giant warship. But which, by the way, the design of the giant warship was actually pretty cool. Like, I like the design of the ships in this film, except for the ones on the planet, the Nova ones, because they were just stars basically. Like I've seen them in the X series. Like copying the cock ships is not creative, guys. You basically did a variant of the cock ships from the X series. Okay, don't kid us here. And the Titan from Sins of a Solar Empire. Like, don't fool us here. Like, I'm pretty sure you guys thought of it first, but as a person who's never seen the Guardians of the Galaxy, like, comics and such, I'm gonna base it on that. And then, like, you see, like, the Nova ships, like, make this, like, human blockade and, like, try and force this ship to not move, to not come down. It looks awesome, and it's just like, why don't people do that more? Why don't we have, like, ships form like a barricade, like a literal barricade, not like nothing comes through because they shoot them down, like an actual like wall barricade where they're pushing back and they think, why don't we see more things do that? That was awesome. And like obviously it fell flat, and I still question why every single ship blew up when it was just the middle bit that collapsed. Again, might have been explained in the comics, but wasn't explained here. I would have imagined they would have just like split off and continued the fight, or try again. But I couldn't tell you because again might not have been. And of course, honestly, outside the air fight, the climax was kind of dull, actually. Like, minus the air fight, like, you get, like, your normal, like, hand-to-hand fighting between a heroine and such, but, like, the fight between the big bag, like, he survives a missile shot at him. He survives a aircraft smashing into him, and then he's killed by the Deus Ex Machina, the Infinity Stone. And I honestly was expecting a long 1v1 or group v1 fight, and it's just like I don't kind of a downer. Like, it was just like if they just made it so that they would just be fighting like the giant war machine, like just like say like, oh, it's being powered by the Infinity Stone. If this thing charges up or crashes into the ground, then the entire planet is destroyed, and it's just like them trying to destroy this warship. I would have left out there being actually enjoying it a bit more, because they throw a stupid twist at the end. It's just like, oh, it turns out this main character wasn't fully Terran, he was only half Terran, and we don't know who his father is, which will almost certainly be in Guardians of the Galaxy 2, and I'm almost certain that it's that one person who we saw for like 2 minutes, who looks like an old purple version of Galactica, or whatever that giant mech thing is. I am almost fucking certain that that is the case. And I probably would watch the sequel. I mean, okay, there were some major problems with the film. Like, as I said, the explaining thing. Like, the explaining, like, if I don't know what's going on, I typically don't like it. Unless, of course, it's explained later on. But there's so much that is just left to a don't have a clue that yeah. Like, what do I think of it in, like, terms of Act 1 or Act 2 and Act 3? Act 1 was... It kind of felt sped through. The pacing was kind of odd in the first act, like the bit when in the prison and such. Like, it sped, like, right the way through. Like, basically, the first act was just visiting a planet, a fight, in prison, escape from prison. And it's just like, they spent a lot of time in the prison, but they didn't necessarily, like, do much in the prison. Like, it wasn't, they could have, the way it was before the prison, to me, felt like, how do I word it? But basically, I think the first act was the worst. Like, because it had very little explanation, and its pacing was all over the place. Like, the first half of the first act, it just zoomed through. Like, it wasn't like zooming through, like, oh, I wasn't noticing the time passing by. No, it just, it flew. And the second act was meh. Like, it had good pacing, but at this point, it's like they don't really do much in there. Like, all they do is, like, fight each other, they talk, they get the exposition about the Infinity Stones, and then there's a fight, and then the guy is captured, and then they become allies. And then, of course, the third act, the climax. Basically, the entirety of the third act was the climax, and I've already just said that. Love the air battle. The indoor fights, kind of a little bit lame. The fight with the big villain, with the big bad, So, I hope my rambling kind of got a good idea of what people thought, how I thought of it. But do I think it's a good movie? Do I think it's a bad movie? I think it's a good movie. Yeah, I think it's good. I mean, it's stupid as all hell. Like, it's got some really dumb moments, and obviously, as I keep saying, it doesn't like to explain stuff sometimes. But I could definitely say that it's, it's definitely a worth watch. It's not, like, amazing. Who would like it? Who wouldn't like it? Well, obviously people who watch the Guardians of the Galaxy comic will probably like it. People that do not want everything explained to them will probably like it. Who won't like it? People that don't like sci-fi, they won't want it because it is a sci-fi film. People that want explanations, yeah, that's another one. People who love CG, because surprisingly, like, there's obviously like a lot of CG used in this, and they have to, obviously. I mean, space, but they actually do have, like, a lot of the sets are actually, like, genuine, and even like the main villain and like the green screen, like, outside of Groot and Rocket, like, most of the characters actually don't have a lot of CG, except for he's called Thanos, but I'm just gonna call him Purple Galactica. Like, Purple Galactica to me felt really CG, but, like, the other characters, man, it's like a couple, like, CG enhancements. Like, the Cybernetic chick had, like, her pupils were a lot larger. That's obviously CG. But, like, it's nice to see some actual, like, genuine, like, body paint and such on there, and not just, not just CG. And that's really nice. Like, people need to producers need to realize that just because CG is there does not mean that you have to do it. In fact, it's best if you don't do it, because I mean, like, I'm not going to go on a tangent on this. Everyone has said it plenty of times in the past that CG just breaks the suspension of disbelief kind of deal, and it should only be used to enhance or do stuff that legitimately is impossible to do. Like, yeah. So yeah, I would definitely say that this is worth watching. I probably will watch the sequel, not like day one, because unfortunately, like, as I said, I need to know more. Like, I need to know more about this universe, and, like, I get it. It's an entire galaxy. You can't expect something that is, I think it was 2.5 hours. You can't expect, like, an entire galaxy to be fleshed out or built up in 2.5 hours and expect to still have your story and such. Like, I get that. I perfectly get that. But, yeah, I would have liked a little bit of explaining outside of, like, the main characters. And like I said, even then, the main characters didn't get very much stuff. But, yeah, that's me rambling for nearly half an hour. So, thanks everyone for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time.